Good morning. My name is Joe Curtatone. I have the distinct honor and privilege of being the mayor of this great city of Somerville, Massachusetts. I want to welcome you all to Central Hill and the steps of City Hall and the concourse. For 2 years, we have been told that, we don't know what's best for our community, that we don't know how to keep our community safe. And for 2 years, we've been told that while we have less financial support, we have to take on one of the responsibilities of the federal government. For 2 years, the fabric of our communities, our families, have been threatened by a flawed federal program called Secure Communities. That ends now. Tomorrow, I will sign an executive order that will put a stop to Somerville's participation in secure communities. Like so many actions, secure communities began with the best intentions. But in practice, this program, it just tears apart families who have committed no crime. It deports otherwise law-abiding individuals for offenses as small as a broken taillight. It asks our law enforcement officials to not use their best judgment and discretion, but instead ask them to blindly hold individuals for immigration with no probable cause, an act that a federal court recently ruled is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. This is a broken system that everyone knows is broken and crying out for reform. Today, the city of Somerville joins the Trust Act movement to begin the change we need to truly keep our community safe and secure. And make no mistake, there's two intended purposes here. We have a moral responsibility to protect our families and a fiduciary responsibility to keep our community safe. Crime in Somerville is down by 1/3 since 2008. And we didn't achieve that by just putting more officers on the street or blindly arresting people and deporting people with no criminal convictions. We made Somerville safer by addressing every factor that affects public safety. And that includes supporting strong families and strong education. And if you're serious about keeping our community safe and reducing crime, then why rip families apart? Why remove the first line of defense against a young person, and I have experience in this, having coached for many years, against a young person walking down the wrong path and making bad decisions? Keeping our community safe also means people cooperating with law enforcement. The very basis of community policing is having the community engage with us to help deal with issues of public health and public safety, to help address issues before they become crimes. It is extremely vital and critical to investigating and solving those crimes. But secure communities, what it does, it engenders fear in the immigrant community. It pushes people into the background and into the shadows. It discourages witnesses and even victims from cooperating with police. What it does is it leaves the real criminals on the street and instead threatens persecution of people who just want to do the right thing. People that are our friends, our neighbors. They go to school, my children, our children are in the parks and playgrounds. They want to make this a great place to live, to work, to play, to raise a family. Through this act, we will free up our law enforcement officials and place our trust back in them. We trust their discretion and their decision-making. We place in them our faith to go after real, legitimate threats to our community safety, find them, arrest them, and prosecute them to the full extent of the law. Our officials will continue to cooperate and work with ICE, but let me make this clear. We are not going to violate the constitutional right of due process. We're not going to waste our time and resources on people who are valuable, contributing members of our community who have tried to play by the rules only to find out that there's no line to get into to become a citizen. We are taking action today that is pro-public safety and pro-family. And we call upon the state legislature to follow the lead of others like and joined Senator James Eldredge and some of his delegation of Senator Pat Jalen, Representative Denise Provost, and Rep. Tim Toomey, and former Rep. Carl Shortino. Call upon the state legislature to pass the Trust Act now, and then join the more than 30 state legislatures who have signed on to the Trust Act, and join the states of California and Connecticut. Join with us and your colleagues and send a clear message to Washington. Send this message. We know what's best for our communities. We know what demands our attention. That not only is immigration enforcement not our job, but under the broken system today, it weakens and undermines the communities we have worked so hard to build together. The Trust Act and our action today is pro-family values. It's pro-public safety. It's the best way to keep our communities safe and support the fabric of our communities that make them so beautiful, make them the beautiful, cherished neighborhoods that they are today, to protect the very fabric of family and community and neighborhood we love so much. I thank you for coming out today. At this time, I'd like to call up first of my two colleagues in the Board of Aldermen, Alderman at Large and Vice President of the Board of Aldermen, Jack Conley.
Good morning, everyone. For almost 30 years, I've spent time representing the citizens of once Ward 6 and now the entire community. 51 languages are spoken in our public high school directly behind all of you here today. Our city has been and is a safe and a very secure community. The Trust Act and the Mayor's comments are well within the goals of what we have all tried to achieve in the massive work we have done improving public safety over these past 2 decades. You'll hear from the Chief shortly about the cooperation that this community has in working with all of us to protect our community. We're not interested in persecuting individuals. We're interested in protecting those individuals that have been part of our community. We are interested in making sure that our neighborhoods will remain as they are, a melting pot of collections of citizens from around the globe. We look forward to working cooperatively with all law enforcement. And make no mistake, we are not soft on crime. If there is a public safety violation that's of a major consequence of violent crime, our police do and will continue to prosecute to the full extent of the law. Make no mistake about that. But if there are driving infractions that any ordinary person here in the community will go through the court system, that's what's going to continue to happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Conley. Next, you'll hear from the Ward 5 Alderman, a strong advocate for community and immigrant rights, Ward 5 Alderman Mark Needgang.
Thank you, Mayor Curtatone. I'm here today mainly to commend and support Mayor Curtatone for taking this stand and to support our police department in implementing it, as I know they will and have been. I want to thank Patricia Montes and Centro Presente, a fine organization that's been pushing for the Trust Act for many years, and also the many other organizations in our community that work on behalf of the immigrant community, organizations such as the Haitian Coalition, the Massachusetts Association of Portuguese Speakers, the Brazilian Women's Group, Cores, and of course the Welcome Project, who's also represented here. Before I became an alderman this January, I had the privilege of serving for 8 years on the Somerville School Committee. And in that position, we came into contact on a weekly basis with families where children were isolated because of parents being deported, where families were being broken up because of immigration status issues. And it was really clear how much pain this has been causing in our community unnecessarily to people who are among the most vulnerable in Somerville. And I'll finish just by saying that I have never been more proud to be a Somervillian. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Needgang. This time I want to call up the acting chief of police to talk from a public safety perspective of why this is important, and it is pro-public safety, Chief Charles Femino.
Good morning. When Secure Communities was originally enacted, it had a stated objective to remove immigrants who posed a danger to the community. Over time, what has happened, it's being used as a tool to prolong the detention of undocumented immigrants who would otherwise be released on bail for minor crimes. In many cases, the police rely on the community themselves and on some of these undocumented immigrants for information to solve crimes. In essence, what the Secure Communities Act has done is built a wall between police and the community so that they are afraid to come forward with important information. Many people say that if it's not broken, then don't try to fix it. In this case, one would argue that the intent of the Federal Secure Communities program is broken and that the federal government has a responsibility to fix it, but has not. If it does not, then the local communities, such as Somerville, will fix it themselves. The city of Somerville takes pride in its diversity. I want my office to continue, our offices to continue to have their partnerships at the federal level in protecting our citizens, but we want to do it in a fair way, in a way that is equal to all citizens in the city. Thank you.
Now I would like to call up a great partner with the City of Somerville and communities around the Commonwealth, a lead member of the coalition on the Trust Act movement, the Executive Director of Centro Presente, Ms. Patricia Montes.
Thank you, Mayor Curtatone. Good morning. My name is Patricia Montes. I am an immigrant from Honduras, Central America, and I am the Executive Director of Centro Presente. That is a statewide Latino immigrant rights organization that has been based in Somerville for the past 7 years. Today, I would like to thank Mayor Curtatone for taking the leadership in passing this executive order and in supporting immigrant families. In passing this executive order, the City of Somerville is sending a very positive and a strong message, not just to the rest of the Commonwealth, but to the entire country, and saying, yes, the City of Somerville respects basic human rights of all people, including undocumented immigrants. Right now, in the City of Somerville, children born and raised in the city are not going to be separated from their parents as a result of the lack of political will in Washington. Residents in Somerville will not have to pay the price of our federal law policymakers' inability to do anything about immigration for nearly 20 years. At the same time, I think it is very important, particularly for the media and everybody, the public in general, to understand that if you commit a crime, this executive order will not prevent you from facing justice. If you rob someone, drive drunk, or do something else that is danger to society, you will still go to the working part of our justice system. Even better, undocumented immigrants who want to be safe in their communities and want to raise their children are going to be able to do that in Somerville. They are not going to be afraid of the police. There are many people right now that are saying that this is letting illegals to be legal in Somerville. That is wrong. This is about letting the undocumented to be people, to be mothers, to be fathers, to be sons, our neighbors, people like all of us, people that are contributing to this society every single day. Our current immigration system does not reflect the values of this country. What Mayor Joseph Curtatone and the city of Somerville is doing right now does reflect the values of this country. I believe in democracy. And for us, democracy is when government and civil society work together in order to improve the quality of life of all people in the community. Thank you so much, Mayor Curtatone, and thank you so much to all members of the city government of this beautiful city of Somerville. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patricia. Our final speaker, and following our final speaker will be available for questions, is Ms. Laura Rotolo, attorney with the ACLU.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Laura Rotolo. I work with the American Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. I, like Patricia, am also an immigrant from Argentina, South America. I came here, my parents brought us here for a better life. I attended Tufts University right near us. And I'm happy to be here to congratulate and support the mayor, Mayor Curtatone, and the Chief Femino, who have taken this very important step today. Today, Somerville becomes the first city in Massachusetts to pass an executive order to put limits on the police's collaboration voluntarily with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This sends two very important messages. First, it sends a message to the Somerville community, and it also sends a message to the federal government, as we've heard already today. To the people of Somerville, to the people who visit and live here every day, it says that the police will do their job and will let immigration enforcement do their job, so that you need not fear that a simple 911 call or a traffic infraction will put you into a deportation pipeline. But secondly, and just as important, it sends a message to the federal government that the immigration policies are fundamentally broken, that the strategies that have led to 2 million deportations aren't just about securing the borders, they have an effect on our local communities. And the breakdown of community trust in police is an unacceptable consequence of strategies like Secure Communities. Secure Communities, as Chief Femino said, was created to get violent people off the streets. But what we have seen in Massachusetts is that more than half of the people deported under Secure Communities had no criminal record. And in fact, only a third of those deported under Secure Communities had committed what immigration itself calls a serious crime. This is an unacceptable program, and we shouldn't mend Secure Communities, we should end Secure Communities. So I'm here again to congratulate Somerville and to stand behind Somerville and to do one last thing, which is to call on both the Massachusetts legislature to pass the Massachusetts Trust Act, which would set statewide limits on collaboration with immigration enforcement, but to also call on the 350 other cities and towns in Massachusetts to follow Somerville's lead, to pass their own policies, to protect their own communities from this immigration dragnet. So thank you again.
Thank you, Laura. My fellow aldermen, colleagues in government, I do want to say the other members of the Board of Aldermen are absolutely supportive. Could not all be here today. We'll be there tomorrow evening. Acting Chief Femino and members of the coalition, Patricia and others. And for the community for coming out. We're available for questions.
Mayor, if
Yes.
Nicholas Guaman had killed a Somerville high school student, would you change your mind?
You're speaking to the individual charged or sentenced to 12 to 14 years. If a person like that has been driving on the streets, have been pulled over, he would have been charged. We're not driving or an unlicensed, being an unlicensed operator. The car probably would have been towed up the street. And the question, that is a tragic case. He's faced the justice system, and he's faced the punishment he should face.
But
Question.
Mayor, his family has said if the governor had allowed initially Secure Communities to come in the first place in 2011, then Nicholas Guaman, who did have a prior history of crimes, wouldn't have been on the street. So what do you say to
The
the
facts-
that that's going to happen here?
The facts speak for themselves. More than half the people across the country who have been deported under the Secure Communities Act had no criminal convictions. In Massachusetts, or Middlesex County, 55%. You heard the statistics. Laura Rapolo said about 2/3 of the people that had weren't even charged with serious crimes. Those cases, the bottom line, point to the Secure Communities Act not promoting safety. Not promoting safety. It's not stopping terrorism. The sharing information is important, but what it is leading to, and what we see here in Somerville, fewer people, more people are more reluctant to come forward. We've had victims of crime who do not want to speak to the police department. We've had serious cases here that were well publicized in the press where we could not even get witnesses to collaborate, or again, the victims to collaborate, for fear their family members will be deported. It is not leading our community safer, and that's what the facts speak to.
Mayor, what would you say to the Denise family, though, when you've got a guy who's defending himself in part 14 years in this country, and part of his defense was, I couldn't understand the English of people saying stop.
I believe what the case points to is this: we have a broken system that everybody knows is broken. What we have is a set of laws and rules without any order. But to state that blindly detaining people just based on their immigration status is going to prevent that crime is not the case. Or crimes like that will not be the case. That is not occurring around the country or in the state. What it is doing is driving a deeper divide, as you heard the chief. These are the people charged with protecting us in this community. The chief saying it's very difficult to do their job when people cast themselves in the shadows in the corners because they're afraid to talk to police.
But Matthew,
So there are more crimes that we are not able to engage or solve that go undetected because people won't speak to us. Serious crimes. Another question.
How many are you detaining that
I'm going to take your question first.
If secure communities were in place in 2011, though, how can you argue with the fact that he could have been picked up and that whole thing could have been avoided?
Right.
I mean, what do you say to families in Somerville who now see that?
No, alluding to what was spoken to, I think one of the newspapers pointed that more people are going to come to Somerville to commit crime is just really absurd. People aren't coming here to commit crime. Crime is down 30%. It's down 30% because we're working with everyone in our community, including our foreign-born population. People are coming to this country and to this community to build a better lives for themselves in the future. If we want to put the attention on the most vulnerable, if we want to put the fear, cast fear among them, we're going to drive a deeper divide amongst our constituency, a deeper divide between them and law enforcement, and we're not going to build a great community. We're not going to build a great Commonwealth, and this country is not going to achieve the greatness it should achieve. It is a broken system. Everyone on each side of the aisle knows it's broken. What we need is federal leadership on this matter to solve the immigration problem. And here locally, we're not going to continue to support a system that is making our neighborhoods unsafe. There's a question over here. Yes.
Have you spoken with any of the neighboring mayors, towns, regarding are they going to follow that campus, your plan?
The question was, have we spoken, correct me if I'm wrong, any other neighboring communities or other communities about whether they be filing? As part of the Trust Act Coalition, presentations have been made to leaders from around the region. My understanding that you could, and I don't know the communities, very well see other communities follow suit for the same reasons we have said. This is pro-family and pro-public safety.
Could you give us an example of a time that an undocumented immigrant failed to come forward and a crime could have been solved if they had?
Well, I can describe without going into a particular case, but we had a recent, I'll just say we had recent cases, and I know from firsthand, the chief can speak to without going into the specifics of the case, where the victims or those who witnessed a particular crime were concerned, even when their parents came down to the station. And the comment was like, my parent or my father or my uncle is undocumented, are they going to take him away? They're very reluctant. It was very difficult to handle that case. On this side here, someone have it?
How does this logistically really affect you guys? I mean, how many people are you detaining a year for ICE?
Well, whether it's 2 people, 6 people, or 60 people, make no mistake about this, the fact is, and I have experience personally with this, I coach high school athletics here, I talk to my athletes who go to school here, and I hear the stories. We know in the community, as mayor, we're the first to hear. Before your state legislatures, the governor, the president, the congressman, we're on the ground here. These aldermen, myself, the activists, the social workers, we hear and know the fear that people feel about being picked up. So one case of an undocumented person being taken away because of a traffic stop sends an incredible negative ripple effect throughout the entire community. And it has tremendous negative impact on our ability to protect our neighborhoods.
I know.
I forget, the number might have been a half, I can't remember. We can get you the numbers out in terms of how many actually in Somerville.
Does this affect funding in any way from the federal government?
No.
I noticed you said you wanted the criminals to be prosecuted and handled through the system, but you didn't say deported after that. Would you like criminals who do their time, so to speak,
Here's what I'll say about that.
or brought back in the communities?
Somerville's not going to solve the immigration problems for this country. We want whoever wants to be part of our city to build a better community, to help us solve issues of public health, public safety, to build an exceptional place to live, work, play, raise a family. You're welcome here. Whether you're an immigrant or not an immigrant, whatever your status is, if you don't want to do that, we don't want you here.
Immigrant ex-con as well, then? Because
We want anybody, let's not cast fear on people. We want anyone who wants to be a constructive part of this, play a constructive role in this community, part of this. We're not here to solve the failed immigration policies and laws of this country. What we're saying is we have a system in place that doesn't work. We have a policy under the Secure Communities Act that is making our communities less safe and breaking up families. We have a moral responsibility to stop that, and we have a responsibility to the entire community to protect every person in every
As you
neighborhood.
said, let's be clear, yes or no?
Why are you acting now? What's the driving force behind it?
Well, we're acting now. Well, we are joining a national movement to drive the states like Massachusetts to consider and pass the Trust Act. Our hope is that Massachusetts is considering the Trust Act and follow the lead of former Representative Carl Sortino and Jamie Eldridge and other co-sponsors, and feel the time is right to act now as well.
Mayor, are there any personal reasons why you're backing this?
Any personal reasons? Personally, I believe in core conviction that this is the morally responsible thing to do, is the right thing to do. We're trying to build a community for people. All people want to be here. We don't want fear to dominate any segment, any population of our community.
Mayor, this is just 2 days after Nicholas Swanman was found guilty and sentenced. So, I mean, his family's, Matthew Denis's family is going to be watching this.
Well,
and, you know, to them, I would never speak for them, but this has got to be troubling.
I think I speak for the whole city. Our hearts, thoughts, and prayers go out to that family, and our sincere sympathy, condolences. It was a tragic event. It was a crime. The person has been punished. They cannot bring back the person. I do not know what they're going through, but I will say, on behalf of the city, we're very sorry what happened to them. The person charged was sentenced, and the justice has been served. Did not bring the person back. The justice has been served for that violator.
And you don't feel like you're inviting anything like that here by doing this?
No. Doing the right thing, protecting families, making our community more safer, is not going to invite more people to commit crime. There's nothing in the current Secure Communities Act, there's nothing to stop violent acts. Violence is occurring. We will stop violence by working with the community. Community-based policing is based upon a foundation of interaction with every stakeholder in the community to deal with issues as they arrive, before they become crimes. And to do that, that means we're all safer when every segment of our community will work with us, will talk with us. Storekeepers, people who live here, people who frequent the streets, and without the fear that they're going to be picked up indiscriminately just because of their immigration status. Yes?
Your policy mean that Somerville will never honor a civil immigration detainer on a person? So, like, for example, if a gang member was arrested after a fight and then
Somerville,
bail, would you honor a civil detainer then, or no?
the city of Somerville, the police department will continue to work with ICE. If ICE has a criminal warrant on a particular individual, we will work with ICE to apprehend that individual. What we're saying is that in the warrant management system, if a car is pulled over, if you're pulled over because of a broken taillight, and it says hold this person, it's a blind hold, and based on just your immigration status, we're not going to do that. But when ICE comes in and wants to work with the city, as we've done in the past, to conduct their investigations as required by law, and have a criminal warrant that they sought and received, we will work with them.
As you said, let's be clear. In 10 years, when Nicholas Guaman gets out, would you support him being back in the community or deported?
I have no comment on Nicholas
Well,
Guaman.
in general,
My point,
in general, when criminals serve serious time, recently the ICE has been suggested that a number of people who serve time for serious crimes were let back into the communities. Would you suggest they should be deported rather than put
our
back
suggestion
in the
is here is not to whether or not Nicholas Guaman should be released in the future. Our point is this, that we are not going to just hold people because of their immigration status, because in almost every case, that person has no criminal convictions, has no violent history, and what they're charged with, there is no violent aspect to that crime that they're alleged to have been charged with.
Somerville has already worked in the past with ICE to get rid of gang members who have already served their time but are facing no criminal charges, and I'm just curious what the shift is.
Somerville has, yes, we have worked with ICE, we have worked with other federal law enforcement agencies. I think we've tried some policies. I don't think they're all great in terms of how we would deal with alleged gang members. We've learned a lot since then in the last 10 years. We've learned a lot about what community policing means. And what is clear is you just can't arrest your way out of crime. And we know that. So laws like this don't actually have the impact they intend to have. If we want to keep our community safe, we have to earn the trust in that engagement with every stakeholder in this community. You have to deal with issues before they come crimes. We need to invest in education and housing and programs. To say that, as others have said in this conversation, well, we have undocumented people that are laborers. We have undocumented people that shouldn't be here. They shouldn't have jobs. Well, if we target the most vulnerable, what will happen when we put them in a situation of despair and desperation, when they can't feed their families, they can't educate their kids, and they're pushed in the shadow and darkness? You will drive crime up. So in the past decade, despite some many good efforts on our part and what we thought was well-intended ideas, a lot of those programs and policies didn't work. What has worked for Somerville to drive crime down has been a holistic approach to deal with all the variables that occur and all the variables that impact economic opportunity, housing, public health, giving kids those leadership opportunities, giving them the opportunity to make the right choices, keep drugs off our streets. And that's proving crime down, not this, what might have been a well-intended law in the Secure Communities Act, but a blind, indiscriminate way of just picking people up because of their immigration status and a broken system that everyone knows is broken. I have time for a couple more questions. Someone who hasn't asked one?
Mayor, what about the philosophy that even if an immigrant, an illegal immigrant, is not committing violent crimes, there's still a grain of society behind them, not paying taxes?
So what about the philosophy? I'll repeat that and tell me if I can. There's a position of philosophy, as you described it, of whether an immigrant is documented or undocumented, they're here illegally, they're draining society of funds. We have about 14 million people, if I'm not correct, who are undocumented in this country. More than 63% of them have been here 10 years. Someone asked me today on a radio program, they should be sent back. Should they be sent back? Where are you sending them to? And these people, they're your neighbors. Their children go to school with our children. They're a necessary part of the fabric of this community. If you sent them back, our economy, I'd submit, would crash. Locally, some of them will not be in the vibrant economic position that it is today. They're part of our DNA. They're part of that multicultural strength, that diversity. So let's not fearmonger and cast what is a horrific act on one end against overwhelmingly people who want to do the right thing. They want to be part of this community. They want to be part of this country. There's no line to get into. And they've had children here in that time period. What happens to those children? We're going to take their parents away. We're not going to let them to educate themselves. They can't access jobs. We're going to stereotype them. Well, you'll drive crime up, all right. It'll be because of that. That's my response to that. One more question. Hi.
You haven't been specific on numbers. Do you have the data on how many people have been?
I want to say it's less than 10, and I'll get that in terms of the time of years that have been picked up on, that we know, at least, that's out of traffic stops and police stops. Let me distinguish between that and a case that comes to a district court. Our executive order cannot impact the judge's discretion in a district court. That is subject to state law. James, one more.
I just want to clarify. Are you saying that you're confident there are no other Nicholas Warrants out here in Somerville that will escape scrutiny under this new policy?
I can't, Janet, thank you. Am I confident that no other individuals, as you mentioned, who can escape scrutiny? We do not have a feel-safe system in the laws here in this country. But what we have is a responsibility to understand and step back and take a look. What are we trying to do? What are our laws intended to do? And no one can argue that the present system of laws in the federal government does not work. It's a set of laws and rules without any order. Here locally, we have a responsibility. We are tasked with mandates, charged with mandates from the federal and state government, most of the time by individuals who have no understanding or idea what it takes to run a municipality, to grow a community. And that's what we're doing. What we're saying here today, we're going to protect families. We want to enhance public safety. If you commit a crime in Somerville, we will investigate that crime. We will charge you. You will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Thank you very much for coming out today. Appreciate it.